Welcome to the Constant Struggle. I'm Nick Watson.
And I'm Bree Watson. And we are the hosts, your hosts of the Constant Struggle podcast, which is a podcast where we talk about the struggles balancing life and art.
Yep. So I'm Nick. I'm a writer and work a day job, which sucks my soul out of my body.
On the daily.
Mm-hmm. And not in a good way.
No. Does writing try to put the soul back in?
I'll let you know once I start doing it again.
Oh, well, there you go. You got to do it. I am a comedian. Bree, that's me. I'm the Bree part of the host. And I do mostly improv comedy, but also recently had to go back to a day job. It does not suck my soul.
No, your day job's fun.
It is very fun.
Well, it's fun adjacent.
Yeah. Well, this is, hang on. We'll get into it in a second. After I mention that this is episode number 86 of the Constant Struggle podcast, and it features an interview with a smoked meat wizard, Zane Caplansky, which we'll go into in a couple of seconds.
Mustardman.
And Mustard.
Noted Mustardman.
The fine mustardman of our day. One of the finest mustard men of our day.
Mustard makers.
Before we jump into that, we'll do a quick little catch up and see where we're at on our creative projects. Although, Nick, did I tell you I am getting promoted for 6 months in my day job? Which in one element is like, yay, but in another element is like, well, now I have even less time to do my creative stuff. Well, I don't know. We'll see.
Sketching. Because
everybody's like, no, man, you got to shut off when you're not at work. When you're at work, you're at work. And then after that, you shut off. But I don't know. Because if you get a promotion, usually you end up working more. So maybe I'm just being anxious about it. Whatever. Either way.
I don't know where that would come from in our genetics.
But anyway, it'll be fun. Other than that, I mean, it's been winter. Winter's a little bit slower, I think, with comedy type things. I had a really fun time doing some Blockbuster Week shows with Bad Dog in Toronto. We had a terrible show in Niagara-on-the-Lake. Oh my goodness, it was so bad. Yeah, sometimes it's good to have a really bad show to just sort of, humble yourself.
What happened?
Well, a group
was like the crowd just not into it?
They didn't know it was a comedy show. It was at a brewery. They just came to get hammered at a brewery. It was like a group of 25 people came in to get hammered at a brewery, and they did not know there was comedy, and they did not care. So they just talked over us. Yeah, it was awful.
This sounds like hen night showing up at a comedy club.
It was that, except it was a group of teachers, not a hen night. And teachers, I think when teachers get together, they fucking let loose,
Yeah,
so they were.
They're not putting up with your little creative jibber jabbers.
No, exactly. So anyway,
they got business to attend to.
The business of beer. We cast some new people at Improv Niagara, which is exciting. So we're working with some new folks on our team, getting settled into the new place. We had our 6th anniversary at Improv Niagara. That's fun. Let's see.
Congrats. Happy birthday, Improv Niagara.
Thank you. Just kind of going along. Oh, I turned fucking 40. I'm fucking 40.
It's great. It's good times. I mean, things hurt a little bit more, but other than that, it's fine.
Oh, well, that's not bad. So far, that's pretty much the same level of hurt.
They have medicine and ointments for that.
All right. Love a good ointment. I went to Oakville and did a show with Oakville Improv last weekend, and that was a lot of fun. So if you're in Oakville, Nick, you're not far away from Oakville, so if you wanted to check out some silly, funny comedies in Oakville, I will recommend.
They're like our neighborinos.
Yeah. So that's kind of my update, is just, keeping it going.
Okay.
Not as intense.
Into the program then?
No, Nick, we have to do an update for what you've been up to.
Oh God, no! There's nothing to update.
Editing?
No, there's.
Right.
You can cut this out. I'm not doing shit, man. It's bleak.
Oh, are you sure we shouldn't keep this? Because this sounds like part of the journey, doesn't it?
I mean, as in the desperate end of things is always part of the journey.
You know, that is a good segue into our episode, though, because we do have some interesting chats about the state of the world with our guest. And I like to think that Zane does a great job at making it, giving us a sense of hope and optimism in times where we feel like maybe are a little bit more bleak. So what do you think about that, Nick?
I think that sums up the episode very well.
Oh, should I not have said it?
No. This is what we have to look forward to.
Yeah.
Coming up.
All right. You could be optimistic about this episode. Episode
it's a good one.
It is a great one. Here we go. Episode 86 with Zane Caplansky. Enjoy.
Hello, folks. I'm Katie.
I'm Vinny.
And we host the Learn Real Good podcast.
It's a comedy podcast about science.
It's also a science podcast with comedy.
Each episode, we interview a science grad student about their research.
And we keep it casual, so you don't need to be a nerd to follow along.
We also share some of the latest science news.
I think you mean the latest science news?
Well, people need to hear more about amphibians.
Well, I agree with that. So look us up on your favorite podcast source and
Learn Real Good. Presented by the Podcavern Network.
Close enough.
Oh my God.
He does this every time.
I know. I never remember.
You had 15 minutes to clear your throat. 15 entire minutes. I got a pedicure while I was waiting.
It helps the show. The pedicure. You can hear it in the audio. Welcome to the Constant Struggle. I'm Nick Watson.
And I'm Bree Watson. And we're so excited. We have a guest visiting, virtually through the power of the internet. Smoked meat and mustard wizard Zane Caplansky. I think that's the official title, right?
I love it. I'll take it. Wizard.
Yeah, big time. It's so nice to see you. Thank you so much for being here today.
You, Bree. Thank you for asking. It's great to be with you.
Yay. How have you been? How's you're out in BC right now?
Yeah, so I actually I closed the College Street Deli in early 2018 based on my decision to move here with my new wife. So Will and I were married in August of 2017, and we wanted to start a family. I knew that the day-to-day restaurant grind was not conducive to spending quality time with a family. And we actually came out to Willa's hometown in Tofino to celebrate Christmas with her parents. And we could see that there was something really wrong, that Willa's mother has Alzheimer's. Willa's dad is still a full-time caregiver. And, you know, given the choices that we'd made as far as hooking up and wanting to have kids, we thought, you know, do we want to do that in Toronto or in Tofino? And it's really such a lovely, quiet, rural place that we thought this would be a better place. Plus, supporting Willa's parents and helping Willa's dad with Willa's mom was part of that equation as well. So we were lucky enough just over 2 years ago to have a little boy named Archibald. And he is the light of our lives and informs everything that we do. In fact, we're mid-move. I literally have sat down this is after 4 days now of constant schlepping of boxes and lifting of things and dust everywhere, moving from our now former apartment to our new house. So many changes in my life and so many wonderful changes. It's really been I feel very blessed.
It sounds perfect for the family situation you guys are in, and you got out ahead of the whole COVID thing as well. Like that would have been a nightmare if you had like family problems across the country and then you were stuck in Toronto.
You know, Nick, that's exactly, we say to ourselves, what would it have been like to watch Willa's parents suffer during the pandemic? Children and older people found the pandemic to be just torturous.
Yeah.
They couldn't understand where everybody went. They couldn't understand why everything changed all of a sudden. And this is quite an isolated place that we live, and they asked people not to come here and visit. So we had almost 2 years of this place to ourselves and the freedom to really support Willa's folks fully.
Perfect.
And it was, I felt guilty that it was a blessing for us in so many ways. And also, part of the subtext of my restaurant closing story was that I had been, what's the word? Screwed.
That's a technical term. Yeah.
We would have,
that's a legal term.
We would have accepted the alternative version.
I had a landlord in my College Street location who decided to break the lease and throw me out of the restaurant unlawfully. And it cost me $100,000 in legal fees to get back in. That's literally in the literal sense, not in the millennial sense of the word literal. And 100 actual $1,000. And then when Will and I came home back from our honeymoon a year later, in 2017, the landlord sent me another notice of default. And so the decision to move from Toronto was aided by the opportunity that my landlord gave me. And the thing is, I became really deeply depressed for a year following closing that restaurant. And, the identity that I have as a deli man and as a restaurateur, there were 4 restaurants and food trucks and catering and TV and radio, but my sense of self was really in the restaurant itself. And I, without that, I was so lost, and I was so angry, and I was so bitter, and I was so embarrassed, and I was so humiliated, and there was so many layers of that pain that I was going through. And we moved here. That was all part of the same package of decisions. And you're exactly right, Nick. A year later, the whole world went into shutdown.
Yeah. And
everybody was looking for a pivot. And I'm now out of the restaurant operations business. We still have one restaurant at the airport.
Oh, I know.
I'm in love with it. It's one of the great miracles of my life. And I've had many miracles happen in my life. But the fact that I work with an extraordinary team of people who runs that restaurant so beautifully that I'm so proud of what we do there. And it allowed me to come here and decide my next step, my pivot, as people started to say a year later. And as Bree said, for me, I actually went to the gym one day, not just one day, but one day that I went to the gym.
That's how it works. You got to go more than once. That's how they get you.
Somebody interviewed me and they, what do you like to do with your spare time? I'm like, well, I like to go to the gym. And this is like blog TO. And the comments from people were like, what gym does that guy go to?
Oh, that's fun.
Does he go more than once? It was like the scathing.
Black Joe shut down by now, right? They got
no, they should be. The people who read it be shut down. I want to cancel those people. I had this moment, and I came back from the gym, and I said to Willa, I think, because I didn't know what to do next. Open another restaurant, do something different. I'm not, retirement's not an option. And I came back from the gym, and I said, I think I want to revive the mustard brand. And then we did. So that's we set on that course in 2019, and we were hugely blessed to have the Toronto Blue Jays contact us and ask us to do a kiosk in the Rogers Centre that summer of 2019. And so we used the opportunity to relaunch the mustard brand at the end of the season, in September. But it was like one of these great, it felt like a great comeback story to me where, dude closes his flagship restaurant, sells off his food trucks, cancels his radio show, moves out to BC. And I'm sure more than a few people sort of said to themselves, well, that's the last we heard of that guy. Not so fast. And there's lots of gas left in this tank. And I kind of feel like I'm just getting started, and I'm so happy the way things have turned out. And I started telling this part of the story. I went from being deeply depressed to being grateful to my landlord for releasing me from the prison of restaurant life. I was working 7 days a week. I was under so much stress. I had sleeplessness and high blood pressure and all kinds of physical ailments going on, all related to this stress. And part of the challenge was that the restaurant was so successful, I could never leave it. And people kept making me offers to do this and to do that. And I kept saying yes to everything. So by doing what he did, my landlord gave me an out, and I took it. And I've never looked back.
It would have been great if the out didn't cost $100,000. Though.
You're right, Bree, and it would have been nice if it wasn't so painful. Yeah. On so many different levels, and there were a lot of other people who got hurt by it too. And there's so many people who've been disappointed by. So the guy who opened in that space on College Street after me, his name was Alex. And it was like a Japanese bakery dessert place, kind of like an Uncle Tetsu, I guess. Yeah. And I went in one day to say hello and see if I had any mail. And he's like, oh my God, we get so many people coming here and they like in tears, and people miss you so much. And it feels really nice that people miss me, but I am uncomfortable with the idea that, we filled a need and a void in the city. And actually, I wish I was open today just so that I would have the kinds of people who are protesting Jewish businesses, because I was so out there with my pride of my culture. Mm-hmm. And I remember there was once a Roma coffee shop. They had protesters. And it's an Israeli-owned chain. And I got an email from one of the Jewish organizations saying that we've declared a boycott. We want everybody to go to Aroma and buy things because they're protesting and it's hurting their business and they need help. Go buy stuff from Aroma. And I wrote back and I said, what am I, not Jewish enough? How do we get protesters over here? I want send some protesters my way. I want you to declare a boycott on my restaurant.
They drew the line at delis. They're like, no, we can't not go. Where else are we going to get this amazing pastrami? It's not going to happen.
Well, you never know. Maybe you'll see some like mustard graffiti places.
I'm looking for, I hope so. I really, I want to stick my hand up and, it absolutely, joking aside, breaks my heart to see the way the backlash and the way Jewish people are being blamed and singled out for hatred for the actions of the Israeli government. Yeah. And, I kind of uniquely, maybe not so uniquely, I shouldn't say that, but I feel really strongly about Palestinian people have been historically incredibly badly treated, and they deserve much, much better than they've ever gotten. And I really wish that their needs would be promoted as opposed to the violence that's been put in its place. I don't think the current leadership in either country or in either place has really the kind of concern for the people, either of Israel or of Gaza or the West Bank, that they need to have. And I really, my heart bleeds for them, for the Palestinian people. but also for the Jewish people now too, who are feeling threatened. I have too many friends who've told me about getting gun licenses and going out and buying guns and not believing that the police will be there when we need them, and to live in the kind of fear that people are living in. I really always felt, having that restaurant, that I was helping people feel good about being Jewish. And I like that. That's
the whole thing with food, isn't it? When you live in a place like Toronto, you get the cuisines from all over the world, and you get to appreciate their culture and stuff. Like there'll be a Palestinian restaurant you can go to. I've been to Ethiopian joints where you're just we went in once, my wife and I, and we were like just yumming on all the food, going nuts, and the owner was like, "Can we take your picture?" They like look at these white people eating our food. And it's just
it's the best part of Toronto.
Yeah, I'm a big Bourdain guy, and he's always been about like you experience the world through their food. It's the gateway to understanding other people, and your place was perfect for that. It was, not only was it a deli, but it was like super Jewish about it as well.
I would put up a banner that said, "Not a Jew, you're welcome too." I want it to be authentic. And to me, authenticity in being a Jewish person means being open-hearted and welcoming. Actually, this is the holiday of Passover, and it was always and remains, first of all, my favorite holiday, but also my favorite time in the deli. We would have on the second night, tonight, a public Seder. In fact, two public Seders, a seating at 5 o'clock and a seating at 8 o'clock. And we had Jews and non-Jews. We had families and singles. We had sold out both nights, both seatings. And it was such a pleasure for me to welcome anybody who wanted to celebrate freedom. And that's what Passover is all about, is celebrating your emancipation from slavery into freedom. And you're meant to tell the story and celebrate freedom as if you had been a slave in Egypt and you had been set free by the grace of God, and to personalize it so that what's enslaving me today? Is it other people's expectations? Is it my mortgage? Is it my job? Is it what's holding you back? What's that thing that you wish next year would feel a little bit better? And, I love being able to share the rituals and the story and the passion for those things without, cramming Judaism down people's throats who didn't want to have it crammed down their throats.
It was a deli. You're technically cramming Jewishness down people's throats.
literally.
Maybe not cramming, making it so delicious that the customers will cram it themselves.
And the funniest thing too is, on the side of my food truck, I had the words. It's actually, if you look at my Facebook profile today, it's me standing with my two cousins, and the words, "Sometimes you just have to Jew it up." I got more pushback from Jewish people for using that phrase, and the idea of Jewish pride is it's an anathema to most Jewish people, because being Jewish just gets you into a lot of trouble. It just isn't something that people really want to let others know about. I don't know if you're aware, but I actually changed my last name. So I was born Zane Caplan, and when I started the deli, I changed the name. I actually restored the name to the original Caplansky, which was my great-grandfather's name. And I didn't know him, Benjamin Caplansky, but I always imagined through photographs that I saw where he was dressed as like a proper wool suit, straw bowler, gentleman of his day, that he changed the name to fit in better with Toronto society.
That makes sense.
Caplansky's a little bit too Jewish. Kaplan, it's still Jewish, but not as Jewish. And for me, Kaplan's not Jewish enough. I wanted the full Caplansky, and then I legally changed my name in that for the same reason. Toronto, as we said, as you said, Nick, the food and the cultural diversity. The motto of Toronto today is diversity is our strength. And I really felt like a bit of a flag bearer for that downtown, and that I wanted Jewish people to feel great about being who they are and not having to hide it, not having to change their names, not having to be anything other than who we are. And that made me really happy.
Yeah, and it's the same with all the communities in Toronto. Like the Irish will be big on St. Patrick's Day, all the celebrations of Italy all over the place in Little Italy. It's like, yeah, you guys, the Jewish people, deserve that as well. You
would think so. And I remember there's a wonderful musician named David Bookbinder who started a renowned jazz musician who started a Jewish festival called Ashkenaz. It's still going. And there's actually going to be an Ashkenaz this year, and I'm curious to see what happens with it because of all the pushback going on. I heard they're having some insurance problems.
Oh boy!
They're expecting, security issues. Anyway, David says to me, when we started Ashkenaz, we used to do a Jewish pride parade down Bathurst Street. He said, "You've never seen anything weirder in your life than Jews on parade." It's like, we're here, we're marching, we're moving. Don't run, don't worry, we're going. We're not going to be here very long. We're moving. It's okay. We're happy, but not that happy. And he said it just was so. We stopped doing it after a while because Jews just don't. We're just so used to being hated and persecuted that the idea of Jewish pride, which is I think why people push back against me using the phrase "Jew it up." My dad's friend Ralph came into the deli once. He goes, what does Jew it up mean? I had these pins. I had it everywhere. I doubled down on that shit. I said, you know what the Jimmy Down means, Ralph? He says, yeah. I said, it's the opposite. Jew it up means do it up. Jewish style. But in my dad's generation, people would use, you got Jewed as a pejorative.
Yeah.
And, I got Jewed down. Somebody cheated me or gave me less than I deserved. And taking that phrase kind of not as extreme, but in the way Black people use the N-word to reclaim it and take out the poison from it really was. And I remember coming up with the phrase "Jew it up," and you're like, "Oh my God, I got to put that on the side of the truck." Yeah. And I had a Jewish guy, spit at me, and it was telling me what an awful person I am as a self-hating Jew to want to tell people how proud I am of being a Jew. And I'll tell you, that phrase got me interviewed on a radio show, that got me onto a panel on a radio show, that got me my own radio show. I really, I didn't back off. Yeah. And in fact, to make matters worse or better, I sponsored the Toronto Palestinian Film Festival one year. And the news of that sponsorship, if the Jews weren't happy with me before, they were even less happy with me after that. Although I was fortunate that I had also sponsored the Toronto Jewish Film Festival. And I said, film and artistic expression are part of the human condition. And I would rather support the Palestinian community to tell their stories versus keep that anger inside and express it in less constructive ways. And I was really proud to have stood up and did what I did. Took a lot of heat from it. Yeah. There was a boycott that was declared within the Jewish community on my restaurant, and I was really concerned. But the rest of the community kind of thought, "Oh, okay, yeah, it makes sense. The dude is happy to bring people together." Yeah, and that's really who I am.
It's such a positive move, and it's what you're complaining because you're helping art and you're trying to show support for people getting screwed over. It's harsh, but good try though.
Really, yeah, it really made sense to me, and
as being an ally, that's the word, right?
That is the word, and that's exactly the way I've always seen myself, and that's one of the reasons too why I feel so disappointed in the way the backlash against the Jewish people from so many other groups.
Yeah,
that it really hurts.
It has that, especially on social media. I've noticed it really has that, like, one or the other, one side or the other kind of mentality that you're seeing in the U.S. a lot too.
Yeah.
Whereas I think a lot of us really feel is like, hold on, let's take a step back and really see what's going on here. It's not about picking sides.
We can all agree Netanyahu's a jerk, but
100%.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, he's not, it's not like he's got massive support.
No, people over there are protesting.
Like, he's barely clinging to power over there. People in Israel want peace. I'm sure they don't want to be like all lumped in under his umbrella, and it's whatever.
There are protests there as well. Yeah.
And this is the thing too. It's all being manipulated. That the people who live there on both sides really want to live in peace. Yeah. And the leadership has manipulated them into a war. And it's a war that I'm sure that neither side really wants.
Hear.
No. Yeah.
The other thing is there's always that line of anti-Semitism out there. I think it's the white nationalists that just always keep it in their back pocket, just waiting for whenever anything happens.
It's terrifying.
Where you can blame Jewish people, and they just go for it.
I remember when the pandemic started saying, I wonder how long it's going to take.
Oh,
until
right.
Somebody blames the Jews. I
think China took a lot of the brunt for the white nationalists. They were focused on that at first. But yeah, I mean, Dr. Fauci. I'm surprised they didn't go immediately after him for that.
Yeah, come on. I mean, it really it is shocking. I was saying this to my wife yesterday, that you grow up being told if it can happen in Germany, it can happen anywhere.
Yeah.
That Jewish people, first of all, a very advanced society, Jewish people held leadership positions in government, in academia, in all aspects of society in Germany. But even knowing or believing that, to see what's actually happening, to see the deterioration of civil society before our eyes, violence, graffiti, hate speech, and hateful actions. I really, the provocation that's being launched by some protesters, or I should say, quote unquote protesters, because I think they're really, it's kind of like, I think what happens sometimes when, do you remember when Vancouver won the Stanley Cup? And
no, that never happened, actually.
Didn't they come?
They lost.
They lost, and they had
riot though.
Well, and in Montreal when they
won, they rioted. Yeah,
and you get the rioters who hide behind the people who are out there gathering to say something joyful or even something important.
Like
and
when
those
Black Lives Mattered happened, you saw that as well. People
exactly right. And those movements get corrupted, or at least not corrupted, but used by people who have a different agenda. And I think we're seeing some of that happen too. It's really it's such a shame, especially in a country like Canada, where I'm so embarrassed by our current government and the way that they've abandoned the notion of doing the right thing for the factions that exist within their own party. And you look at the other parties, and it's hard as a Jewish person to say, who's going to stand up and support the Jewish people in Canada. Who can we trust and rely on? And it's a very, very tough moment, especially coming back to Passover, where 130 people, we don't know if they're alive or dead, are being held hostage in Gaza still, and we're here celebrating freedom. And it's a very stark reminder that there are lots of people in the world who, and the way Palestinian people are suffering as well. The war has been a disaster for everybody, and I really hope and pray that new leadership is found who can move us to a better time.
It's almost globally too. I feel like there's a dirge in leadership anywhere in the world right now. I don't think anyone's nailing it.
Certainly down south, or our neighbors down south.
Yeah, and then my wife's British, so we're following over there, and it's not.
Oh my
good.
God! Did you see what happened in England with the whole Rwanda thing?
Yeah, that's not great.
It's. I mean, I saw it last night.
They're playing the hits. They're opening concentration camps again, like the British invented in the first place. So you do you, Britain.
Crazy. Yeah, I'm actually a Joe Biden fan. I really think that he's a great president and will be seen in history to have been a great president. I hope to God he gets reelected and that the other side people realize who. I mean, I don't know what you have to do to see and believe that this person, his opponent, is a rapist and a cheat and a liar and a phony and a fascist.
It doesn't seem to matter. People are still,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
But I think the important thing to keep in mind, though, is the world's always been terrible.
Well, this is the thing, Nick, that I truly believe that as a species, human beings, one of our most basic realities is that there's a struggle for limited resources, and that kind of pits us against each other. Mm-hmm. But the fact that love and hope and charity can exist, to me, is evidence of a higher power. That love doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Someone's ability to reach out to another person, to help a stranger, to do something wonderful for somebody else. And so, while I think, in a pessimistic view of the world, it can feel the way you're saying it feels, I really do believe in the "it's darkest before the dawn" idea, and that this very dark time will lead us, if we wanted to a much brighter future.
Yeah, I was not being completely serious, but if you look at history, I think it's always been darker than it has been now. I think we've been living it, like we all grew up in a very great time in Canada. There's growth everywhere. Multiculturalism was lauded as a positive, and we're starting to see the nastier bits of society poking at it again, seeing if they can get more support. And this has happened before. They're like Nazis in the 70s. And yeah.
Well, I mean, look, in the United States, the peaceful transfer of power didn't happen in the last time power was transferred. They came within a hair's breadth of having democracy overthrown in the world's greatest democracy. And there are absolutely all kinds of reasons to be concerned about our species and where we are in the world, and those forces are at play right now. And I am concerned, and I am looking for allyship, and I am looking for those who share my values of unity of purpose and caring for other people, to come together to reject the fascism that we're seeing around us. We can't we can't just dismiss it. It is absolutely a reality. Yeah. And I think that life is what you make it. And now that I have a son, I want to make this place for his future better than it's looking right now.
We did our podcast a little backwards, I feel, this time, where we talked a lot about the struggles already. The current modern conflict in the world. We talked about the challenges, the personal. We talked about family. We talked about the restaurant. I'm surprised. I'm going to throw it out real quickly. I'm surprised somebody else moved into that location. I thought for sure the reason they shut it down was because they were going to turn it into a giant condo. But
anyway. You know what? I thought so too, and I was really surprised that he proceeded the way he did. I was certain that he wanted me out so that he could redevelop the building. Mm-hmm. But I guess I think it was strictly personal.
Wow. All right. Wow.
What
who can hate a face like this?
Honestly. And a sandwich like that, and I also think it's very interesting because we're talking to you at sort of at a point in your life, sort of where you've had this massive success with your business. Beyonce bought your meat, for crying out loud, and so
came into the restaurant, and we were talking about Anthony Bourdain earlier. Yeah, we had. This was. I think the reality of what happened was that the landlord never imagined I would walk away. And I think it's kind of like the story of the goose who laid the golden egg.
Yeah.
And, if you feed it enough and squeeze it enough and poke and prod it enough, it'll produce more eggs. But eventually the goose just went fuck off and flew away.
Yeah. Oh, man, that makes it so much more sad. Like it didn't have to be like
it really, this is the thing. Like it was a very successful business, and we had tremendous community support, tremendous media coverage. I would say I was the beneficiary of more and better media exposure than I can't think of another restaurant in the history of restaurants that have ever enjoyed the kind of run that I did and the praise and accolades that I got. And very little of it. I mean, I told the story of the Palestinian Film Festival, which, led to our being incredibly busy, but also all the Food Network stuff, all the media attention that we got, who would have ever imagined, that those things would happen.
You did the big too. You got to eat here and Triple D.
Yeah,
and
I know.
It was such a great time.
Crazy.
It was a crazy time for food, wasn't it?
It was, and it absolutely coincided with the popularity of the internet for reviews and spreading the things, becoming hot and trending, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And also the way that I started, I think, lent itself to that I created what's regarded as the first pop-up restaurant. And I'd never used that term myself, but by opening my restaurant inside of the Monarch Tavern, it was really cool. But it wasn't really cool because I thought it was really cool. It was really cool because I was really broke and had no other means to get started. And it was all I could do. So it wasn't like, it's not that I'm cool, because I'm not cool. But what I did was cool because it was such a pure expression of, I need to make this food in this city right now. And I don't need a big sign. I don't need Main Street coverage. I don't need to do it. I don't need to be popular. I just need to do it. And that people responded to that.
This
Plus,
is
it was
perfect.
a good thing.
Because I've talked to Bree about having chefs, cooks on our show before, because ostensibly our thing's about creativity. Like I do writing, Bree improv, and the struggle of doing a creative life. And we're like, well, how does food fit in with that? And it's like it can be creative, or it can be a craft as well. But from what you're saying, that sounds like it's that passion for that thing to create that kind of food is what led to it. And I think that's where it almost like developed in 2012, where like food became art.
Yeah, I remember the first time somebody called me an artisan, and I was like, "What?" Like, it was
true, right?
Well, and I looked up what is an artisan? I'm like, we make everything from scratch. We do this. You don't go into the restaurant business to get rich. There's an old joke. How do you make $1 million in the restaurant business? Start with $2 million, and it's a very easy way to lose a lot of money very quickly. It was truly passion driven. It wasn't a get rich quick scheme. This was, so what happened was I was managing another restaurant called the Magic Oven. It's a pizza pasta place on DuPont Street. And one of my staff members, and actually a series of friends in the summer of 2007 were going to Montreal. And I asked a bunch of people to bring me back a Schwartz's smoked meat sandwich.
That makes sense. I frequently request bagels when people go to Montreal. It's 100%. That is a fair request.
And they let me down one after the other. I forgot. I ate it. They wouldn't let me on the plane with it. Whatever lie they made up. And then the last person, his name was Hart Lambert. Hart worked with me at the Magic Oven, and he stiffed me. And I got angry. I'm like, why can't you get a good smoked meat sandwich in this city? You know what? I'm going to do it myself. And it wasn't, I'm going to open a restaurant. It was just, I'm going to make this food. And I went online and I bought a book and I bought a smoker and I taught myself how to pickle and spice a brisket. And the very first one that I made in the backyard of my apartment on Berkeley Street in the east end of Toronto came out beautifully. And
my mouth is literally watering right now.
The hair on my arm stands up when I think of that day of taking the brisket out of the smoker and it's black and all the spices and the beef juices are running out of it. It absolutely was just this like epiphany kind of, oh my God, I can't
so good.
And it took 2 weeks to cure it. And it took 12 hours to smoke it. And then you have to cool it down and then you steam it again and then you slice it. And I remember pulling a little bit of the meat off the end and that salty, spicy, smoky. And
was it any good?
Yeah. And literally tears were running. Like I couldn't believe I did it. And I took it to a dinner party. The people who actually lived next door to me watched me do this. And hey, can you bring that over for dinner? And at that dinner party was a chef who his name is Jesse Valens. He's now the head chef at Barbarian Steakhouse, but a wonderful guy and a wonderful chef. And Jesse was like, this is like really, really like, you should think about opening a restaurant. And that was really, once I started down that path, getting that kind of validation from him really sort of gave me a bit of a nudge, but I was broke. I had not exaggerating, I was a paycheck to paycheck person. I had a few $100s in the bank. And once I decided to do this, once I knew that the Monarch Tavern was available, once I had a timeline for when it would happen, I saved every penny that I could, and I had $3,000, and I opened with that. And I thought I actually came very close to joining a sailing club because I figured that no one would ever find me upstairs in the Monarch. I didn't have any marketing money. I didn't have there's no press release. There's no anything. But what happened was another great miracle in my life was a fellow named David Sachs wrote a book called Save the Deli and won the James Beard Award for the book. But when I opened my restaurant, he included me before the book was published as he called me the he called me the smoked meat messiah. And the idea, like the book was supposed to be about the death of the deli tradition. And then me and Kenny and Zooks in Portland and Noah Burnhamoff in Brooklyn and the General Muir guys in Atlanta, Wise Sons in San Francisco, a whole new generation of younger chefs and cooks started to reinvent the concept of deli. And David basically turned his Death of the Deli book into a good news story. And I was part of that new wave. And the Globe and Mail wrote an article about my opening. David Sachs wrote an article about my opening and got it published in the Globe and Mail. And that cleaned me out of food. It took 2 weeks to cure a brisket. I'd done this whole batch and all of the food was gone that was supposed to last for 2 weeks in a day and a half. Jeez. And after that, I had a hard time keeping up because then word spread that something's going on. And actually, one day, so I'm an obnoxious name dropper. You'll forgive me. Geddy Lee, who was a regular in the restaurant.
Ever heard of him?
Ever, yeah. I mean, for me, a Jewish nerd growing up in suburban Toronto, Geddy Lee is an idol. And I'll tell you the story I'm telling you. So he calls me over one time. He says, we know somebody in common. I'm like, who would we possibly know in common? He says, your cousin Jerry. I'm like, the insurance guy? He says, yeah. And I saw Jerry a few weeks later and he said, Geddy walked into they played tennis together. Geddy walks into the locker room at the York Rackets Club and says, guys, I found the best new deli. When Geddy Lee is walking into rooms, Brie alluded to Beyonce, that happened as well. And the small miracles of people who get behind you and push and tell other people that you're doing something interesting or different or special. It was, even in a place as humble as the Monarch was, or maybe because it was as humble as it was, it really seemed to capture people's imagination. And my idea of myself changed dramatically because of that experience. I changed my name. I told you that story. And really feeling good about who I am, which was something that is still a struggle for me in a lot of ways, but it helped a lot to feel other people or see other people lining up for my food and coming to the restaurant. I remember actually, I think it was the very first time I was looking in the window at 356 College. The restaurant that was there before had closed, and I was checking it out. And a guy walking down the street says, "Hey, Caplansky, you should open a restaurant in there." I'm like, "You think so?" He says, "I'm a big fan of yours." And I'm like, I have a fan. There's somebody I was really, and it tears me up. the idea that people really liked what I did and saw value in it, and got behind me and told their friends and brought friends and spread the word. I think that does share a lot of the artistic drive that people in the arts care about. And, also, I didn't come at this in a really traditional way. I didn't slave away in restaurants my whole life. I did go to George Brown College for culinary. I have worked in restaurants for years and years and years in lots of different capacities. But I didn't take the traditional chef route for sure. And I had a dish, I had a dream, and I had got lots of hustle. And with those three things, it took me someplace really special.
So how do you go from doing the smoked meat to going to Caplansky's, the restaurant, where you're like, well, this is a traditional deli staple, I'm going to build a deli around it? Is that?
So it's interesting. It's a great question. David Sachs said to me the very first time we met at the Monarch Tavern, having a slice of pizza, where I told him my idea. And my idea, when I was at the Monarch, we did one thing. We made smoked meat sandwiches, hand-cut French fries, hand-cut coleslaw with Silverstein's rye bread and Stubbs pickles. And that's it. And I made my own mustard too. And Jesse Valens from the Barbarians taught me to make my own mustard. He also taught me to make great French fries. And he taught me how to make a really great smoked meat gravy. And so the menu grew a little bit into the poutine that I made.
Ugh,
we started making a smoked meat fish. Yeah, we started making a cabbage borscht, and it was a very tight menu. But what happened, to answer your question, Nick, was that some of my customers made it very clear, not Getty, that they would help me when I was ready to open my own restaurant.
Oh, cool.
And Brian Greenspan, first and foremost in that group, Canada's most, some people would say, best criminal defense attorney in Canada. I would say the biggest mensch that I know. Brian got behind me and pushed really hard and attracted a group of people. I don't know if you know who Michael Cole is. Used to CPI, Constant Promotions International. Michael and his partner Billy Ballard, who was Harold Ballard's son, were investors. Avi Bennett, who was a major developer. Just Steve Halprin. A terrific group of really
serious people.
Amazing, serious people. Put up the money and helped me open the College Street location.
Right.
And that's how I went from humble upstairs pop-up to Main Street big time restaurant. And then I got the idea for the food truck. I was invited to cater a couple of concerts on Toronto Island.
Oh.
And one was Broken Social Scene.
Nice.
One was Pavement.
I might have been at that Broken Social Scene concert.
It was a really. They were both great cultural experiences, and I have a cousin who is the promoter, Amy Herstenhorn, and I saw this Mr. Poutine truck pull up, and I was struggling with lineups that lasted for hours, and I was aware of what was happening with food trucks on TV, like in the United States. They were really taking off in 2008, 2009. And I decided to take the plunge. And I went on Dragon's Den. And Dragon's Den changed my life. And Dragon's Den invited me back. And then they invited me back again. And then they included me on two update shows. So I was actually on the show 5 times.
Wow.
And the Food Network started to, as you said, You Gotta Eat Here and Diner Drive-Ins and Dives and a whole bunch of other shows too.
Yeah, I met you and Steven and Chris when I was working there.
I actually posted about Steven and Chris the other day, and I loved both of those guys, and I have a wonderful memory of just before the curtain went up. They were at commercial. The Wrangler was whipping up the crowd, and Chris, just with this magnificent smile and so genuine, waving at me across the stage because I was and they were over there, and their warmth and their energy and their kindness. I was so blessed to get those kinds of opportunities to connect with Canadians through the TV screen. And, it was really, there's 8,000 or 9,000 restaurants in the Greater Toronto area.
Yeah.
That one should get the kind of attention that I did. Plus, I was in the second last issue of Gourmet Magazine. I was in the New York Times a whole bunch of times. I was, I got so fortunate. I was in this documentary called Deli Man, as well as David's book. I just kept having these wonderful opportunities to tell my story and to spread the word. That it took. The restaurant took on a life of its own, sort of. And I mean, because I was driving it. But then, in 2014, I got asked to open a restaurant at the airport in Toronto. And there was it just kept going. There was all of these ways and places to keep doing this. And at the same time, it was killing me. I wasn't, I worked. I didn't have much of a life outside of the restaurant. And as a restaurant operator, I wasn't a really good one. My skill set doesn't really lend itself all that well to management and finding good professional managers and holding on to those people wasn't something that I was lucky enough to be able to have done. And so I found it very stressful. And the restaurant, wasn't as, all of the accolades and all of the attention didn't result in
loads of money,
the same kind of wealth that people always imagine that you're rolling in deli dollars, and I wish it was true. Certainly the mustard business is a better business than the deli business was. The average restaurant in Canada makes a 3% profit margin. In our best year, we made a 5.5% profit margin.
Wow. Yeah, yikes.
Yeah. And you have to work extremely hard and be a very good manager to do those things. So really, being able to succeed in the restaurant business was killing me. And what I really wanted was a family. And I met my current partner, my wife, Willa, and on our first date, and pro tip, don't do this. On our first date, I asked her if she wanted to have kids, and she was suitably freaked out by that. Maybe,
no sense
but I don't know
wasting time,
No,
that's what it was. I was 47 years old, and I knew that I didn't want to date somebody who didn't want to have kids or didn't want to have kids with me.
Good, that's a freaking great call, man.
It's funny too, because I remember her saying to me, I never expected to be able to.
No.
Welcome back.
See, I told you I couldn't manage a restaurant, right? I can't even imagine fucking cell phone.
That was harsh.
I'm so sorry.
You left. It was a big. You were like, in the one thing that we never expected was. But you were saying you wanted a family. You're not.
I wanted a family, and we started dating, and we actually met in a garden party with mutual friends, and it worked. And the truth is too, it didn't work that well in the sense that we had difficulty conceiving. We used IVF, and it's another. It's a heartbreaking and difficult journey because it's expensive, and all of the hopes and dreams that you have of success, it usually doesn't work the first time. For us, it took 4 tries to have Archie. Plus, we had the pandemic, so that also interrupted our efforts. And but again, it's like, if there's one thing about me that I really do like, it's my level of persistence. And when I know what I want, and I certainly wanted to have a family, I never imagined I would have a kid like this. And I think I hit the kid jackpot. He's just, the other day, we didn't coach him. We didn't ask him. We didn't tell him what to say. And he says, "Baby loves daddy."
Aww.
And it's like, and then he said, "Baby loves mommy." So daddy got first billing.
Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. She's never going to live that down. But it's like those moments, are so special. And he's bright and kind and sweet and funny and just, and even being out here has worked out so well too. Having, being able to take him to the beaches yesterday, all week actually, he wants to go down and see the boats, and being able to take him down to the water and just see the boats. It just makes him perfect timing.
You like
He
boats?
wants to see the boats. See?
Yeah.
Loves the
They're
boats.
pretty great.
What's that?
Which one was your favorite?
The
red
boat.
boat.
That's a good colored boat for sure.
Loves to help. Were you helping mommy?
Yeah.
What were you helping mommy do?
I do mommy.
So my wife is putting together some IKEA furniture, and Archie was helping mommy do that.
Oh.
So that's right.
Nobody likes doing that, so it's always good to have extra hands.
Yeah, that's being very helpful.
He's a very helpful kid.
Well, that's amazing. It's so interesting to see how, how the journey. So many people perceive the journey and the success being like big life, Toronto, big city success. But, I think if you follow it to where it's the most healthy and the most happy, that's be, I think that giggle says it all.
Yeah, I think this is, and it's something I feel so strongly about, Bree, that success and failure are purely self-defined concepts.
Yeah.
That
Mommy. Daddy bed.
Yeah, are we helping mommy and daddy's bed? That's so nice. Did I fail because I closed my restaurant on College Street? Did I succeed because I turned a pop-up restaurant into 4 restaurants? I've never felt more successful than I feel now, having a life that includes him and my wife and the lifestyle that we have here. I love the mustard business. I love the deli business. I love being able to continue to do all the things that I love to do so much. And you're right. There may be a lot of people who think, mustard, like, what a loser that guy is. And
they haven't tried the mustard.
I don't know, man. Mustard's pretty good.
I'm so proud of what we do. We actually won 3 medals in a worldwide mustard competition earlier this week. And us and 2 other companies, all 3 of us won. Over 250 different brands entered. Wow. And we were the top medal winners. And the quality of what we do, the people that we do it with, the success that we're having in the marketplace, it feels wonderful. But what feels the best is hearing my son call me daddy and watching him grow up and seeing what kind of person he is and becoming a better person myself, because I know that you can say whatever you want to say to him, but what he learns from is what he sees you do. Yeah. And that means that I have a responsibility to him and to the rest of the world to help bring a person into the world. He's now playing with his mother's deodorant.
It smells delicious, probably.
Good times.
Yeah, don't put it in your mouth. Good boy.
It runs in the family, just exploring flavors.
That's right.
Love it.
I am going to say thank you very much. And if we get cut off, I'm sorry, but thanks. This was great.
I got 4%. I'm good to keep going. I'm good. Okay.
Thanks so much.
Great to see you.
Sure.
Thank you so much for listening and for being interested.
And we'll send people to your mustard websites as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Zane.
Bye, Nick. Bye, Bree.
Take care.
Say bye, Archie.
This has been episode 86 of the Constant Struggle podcast. For more information about Zane Caplansky and his fine mustards, check out our show notes at podcavern.com. Bree?
Great episode.
I think it's a really good snapshot of where everything is right now in the world and where Zane is with his business empire.
Yeah, the mustard empire.
Yeah,
the West Coast mustard empire.
Yeah, and I'm glad we tried going the food route for exploring creativity and art.
Yeah, you were interested in knowing about artisanal food.
Artisanal, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Artisanal deliciousness. If you enjoyed this episode and you found it interesting or helpful, or it made you want to cure some meat of your own, why don't you share it around and maybe it'll help somebody else on their artistic journey along the way. So like, share, subscribe to our little podcasts at Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and of course, check us out on Podcavern, our new home, the sweet, comfy little Podcavern. And check out all of their episodes.
Oh, nice.
They've got so many cool shows on that podcast network as well. So go on and explore some of their shows as well.
Yeah, for a pod cavern, it's like it's not too moist down here. The humidity level's perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they must have some kind of regulation or something to keep it that way.
And yeah, I like the soundproofing they put on the stalactites
and mites, both. Look up and down.
Yeah, well, it's more carpeting on the mites, right? Yeah, it's on the floor.
Yeah, all right.
Hey, talk.
If you like the episode and you want to talk to us about it, chat with us about it. We'd love to hear from you. You can like our Facebook fan page. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
And don't forget to struggle on.
Struggle on. That was suitably goofy, I think.
It was very goofy.